Hello, I'm Lauren, your host for the KidsMin Collective podcast. And today we're going to do part 2 of our episode about what does it take to thrive and flourish in KidsMin. This is a huge conversation. So just a quick recap of kind of what we talked through last time. If you missed it, check out that episode. Definitely super helpful and some practical tips on how to equip you as KidsMin leaders with just the steps that you need to take to have a thriving ministry. And so some of the things that we covered were just establishing a strong foundation, asking about what is your why, determining your value, your missions, your vision for your ministry as a kids ministry. The second step is to evaluate what's working and what's not working. So don't evaluate that to criticize, but evaluate to grow, and using metrics that really matter. So engagement, spiritual growth, leader sustainability, parent partnership, things that are key to your ministry and align with your mission and vision. You're going to want to identify your priorities. What are the non-negotiables of your ministry? Prioritize the things that align, and drop the rest of the things. Figure out how your yes can be yes and your no can be no, and how you have easy no's when you know exactly where you're headed and what you're saying yes to and what matters. And then be confident in the no's. You're going to want to be able to make a plan to keep that simple. You're going to want a clear, consistent plan that's sustainable for you and your ministry at its exact season and exact time, and in the space that you have with a pace that is doable for you. And lastly, you're going to want to revisit, refresh, and repeat this process. So building those rhythms into your typical routines over the course of a year, because remember that flourishing is not a process. Flourishing is a process and it's not a finish line. It's not a one and done thing. You are continually going to be in the process of flourishing as a ministry, and seasons are going to change and ebbs and flows are going to happen. And that is a normal, typical part of KidsMin. And so that process is going to be ongoing. So be encouraged in that. That's an exciting thing for your ministry. So let's revisit just what does it look like to be a thriving and flourishing KidsMin. It is not just surviving and it's not just maintaining, right? To be flourishing and thriving, you want to be growing, sustaining joy, bearing fruit, presenting the gospel. You want to see that your kids in your ministry and the families in your ministry are healthy, that the ministry you are doing is life-giving, it's Christ-centered ministry for kids, families, volunteers, and that you're doing discipleship, right? We are called to be disciple makers, and that means we get the opportunity to do that not only with the kids in our ministry, we get to do that to equip our parents and our families to be disciple makers at home. And we get to disciple our leaders, whether they're adults or students, whether they've been doing this for 50 years or whether they're brand new to volunteering. We get to walk alongside people and disciple them, and just create these healthy, life-giving, Christ-centered ministries, where we get to do that. So that is where we see thriving ministry. And so let's talk about just the 5 P's of a thriving kids ministry. So these are the things that I teach in my original frameworks that I've designed in my KidsMin consulting program. And so here's just kind of a quick overview of what that looks like. But you're going to want to use these as a framework to align every aspect of your ministry with your mission. So here is just kind of each one of those things. And so we talk a lot about the clarity and alignment of your mission. So you want to make sure as a KidsMin leader that you have defined and aligned your ministry around a clear, compelling mission that reflects God's calling for your church and your community. Obviously, there needs to be some prayer and thought put into this. Sometimes this comes maybe from leadership down to kids ministry. Maybe the whole church has the same mission, and that's okay. But you need to know specifically, and you need to be able to define what that mission is and make sure that everything you are doing is aligned around that. So every program, every decision, every every resource should echo this purpose, right? That is the mission that you're on. That is the mission God has called you to be on as a KidsMin leader. And so this is allowing you to not just do ministry, but to do it with intention and eternal direction. And so just operate under this belief, right? That a clear mission fuels lasting impact. So when we lead our ministry, when we lead the church, right, with clarity, we create unity, we create direction, and we give purpose that empowers everyone to run toward the same God-given vision. And so can you imagine a kids ministry that is fully aligned with the mission and is very clear that your families know what the mission is, that your kids know what the mission is, that your volunteers know what the mission is, and that the church is clear on what your kids ministry mission is, whether that's the same or different than the church at large. And so clarifying and aligning your mission is the first part of that. And that is your purpose. That is the first of the 5 P's, is what is your purpose as a kids ministry? And then that is the foundation for the rest of the things that you are working through, right? And so the second part of this Flourishing Kids ministry is going to be people. You want to equip the people who make ministry possible. You want to equip the people that are part of your ministry. Both of those are equally as important parts of your ministry, right? And so you want to invest in the people that are part of your ministry. That is going to be the children that you see either on Sunday mornings or on weekday. If you have weekday programming, it is going to be the volunteer leaders that help teach and facilitate all of that programming. It is going to be parents and families that we get to equip to be disciple makers at home. And so all of those are part of our calling and our mission as KidsMin leaders. So all of those people are equally as important and just a different part of our ministry. And so invest in your people. We want to equip the kids to know and to live the gospel. That is a key part of everything we should be doing when we are pulling together our programming. We want to empower our parents and families to disciple their children at home. And we want to train our volunteers to lead with excellence, compassion, and spiritual maturity. And so people are not just a resource to use, but they are disciples to be formed and to be sent, right? So we believe that ministry thrives when people are equipped to lead and to live the gospel. And so they do that through discipleship. And you get to be a primary disciple maker for a lot of different people as you're touching the lives of kids, families, and volunteers. And so transformation is going to happen within your ministry when every person is growing not only as a disciple, but also as a disciple maker. Somebody once said to me recently that you have not created a disciple until they are discipling somebody else. And that was a huge kick in the gut. I was like, oh my goodness, yes. That's hard, right? And so you are in a unique position as a leader over kids ministry to disciple your volunteers. And in turn, they get to turn around and disciple the kids in their ministry. Often, if you have a larger ministry, you probably don't get a lot of access to be in a kid's classroom all the time. I know I've mentioned this before, but one of the things that it was hard for me is that because I wasn't in a classroom and I had a lot of kids, I often had to pull out kids who needed discipline. And so I typically only got to know those kids, not everybody. So you get to disciple your key leaders and equip your families. And by doing that, you're in turn allowing them to be disciple makers of the kids that are part of this ministry. So it is a sweet privilege and a spot to be in that not everybody gets that. And it's definitely a unique position. So just remember that you're equipping the people The third P is going to be programming. And so you want to make sure that you're aligning all of your programming with your purpose. So just some action that you can take is to evaluate and design all of your programming to directly serve your mission, engaging your community, and reflecting the needs of your families. So every event, every Sunday experience, every weekday experience, every, special thing that happens, all curriculum should be strategic, intentional, and impactful. It should not just be busy. It shouldn't just be all games. But how do we in turn be intentional about the programming we're using to align with the purpose and the mission and the vision that God has called you in the children's ministry and you in the church to facilitate. So we believe that intentional programming multiplies ministry impact. When you are intentional about every single time you have a child in your presence for your ministry, and you are intentional about how you're doing your programming, it is going to make a huge impact on what these kids are learning and what they're taking away from their time that they are with you. Often I would tell teachers when I was overseeing preschool that we get these kids for 1 hour a week. Sometimes we get them for 2 if they come for 2 services, but most of the time you get to see them for 1 hour a week. Parents have them for the rest of the week. So how do we create intentional programs and be intentional about every single moment that is in that 1 hour we get them? And then also, how do we send home intentional resources that allow the programming that parents are doing, right? They're doing it in a much looser term than our type of programming in kids ministry, but how do we equip parents to be facilitating the same conversations at home? So when your programs serve a purpose beyond just busy work or activities or movement, they actually become catalysts for spiritual growth. And this can happen, I promise you, even in an infant classroom. And so how do we provide a place where we are loving children, where we are all of our programming is directly tied to the gospel, and we are teaching children from the time that they are born, all the way till they graduate out of high school, and obviously beyond. But we want to be the catalyst for spiritual growth, and we want to provide purpose for them. We also want to maximize the potential of your physical space. So the fourth P is going to be that physical space. I know this is a hot topic and a hard topic sometimes, because spaces change. You have shared ministry. Sometimes people are in temporary locations where they have to set up and clean up every week. So assess and steward your ministry spaces to be safe, to be welcoming, and to be designed for connection and learning. So keep those things in mind as you're processing through, what does your physical space look like? Your environment should reflect the value you place on children and the message that you want them to hear when they walk through the doors. So just remember, how are you creating a space that allows that tells kids you're loved, Jesus loves you, we want to teach you about Jesus, and that's what we're here to do. So we believe that our spaces should speak the gospel even before a word is said, right? So how do we provide a space that welcomes them, that's safe for them, that teaches them that they're welcome in these spaces no matter what, and that we want to connect with them and we want them to learn about who Jesus is and the gospel message. So our environments should be inviting, purposeful, safe, and just to prepare the hearts to hear and respond to God's truth. And so how do we create a space that does all of those things? We want to implement procedures, which is the fifth P, that are just going to protect our kids and our families, but also that promote growth. Another hot topic is procedures. And so we want to establish clear systems, clear safety procedures that actually safeguard our children, that build parent trust and create smooth ministry operations. Strong systems don't actually restrict ministry, they actually release it to flourish. And this is a little bit of a mindset shift that some of us have to remember that just because we're putting a procedure in place doesn't mean it's a rule or something that just is set up to be annoying, but it's actually to set up a safeguard for everybody involved. So one of the things that was difficult and challenging every time was name tags, right? Check in and check out procedures. So without fail, mostly every single week at a large church, we would have a parent who would show up to pick up their child without their pickup tag. And our teachers were trained that they needed to have the parent's pickup tag to match it to the number on the back of the kid's name tag to make sure the right parent was picking up the right child. If you have the same kid in your class every Sunday, you probably know who those parents are. And people would get frustrated when our teachers would ask them to go get the name, to go get the parent pickup tag. And this is a procedure that was not meant to be annoying, but actually was to be a safeguard for children. If somebody shows up and just says, "Oh, I'm Johnny's dad," and I forgot the pickup tag, and you said, "Okay, great," and you hand Johnny off to this man that may or may not be Johnny's dad, you don't know that. And so these things are not put in place to be annoying, to be frustrating, to just be rules that we have to put in place, right? They are there for safeguards and for a reason. So be strategic about what you're putting in place. But we believe that structure actually protects what matters most, and that is our kids in this process. But these structures also protect our volunteers, right? If volunteer sent home the Johnny with the wrong parent or the wrong adult, they can be in just as much trouble. And then us as KidsMin leaders can also be in trouble. The church can be in trouble. So these procedures and safeguards are there for everybody. Healthy procedures are going to create the foundation for spiritual, relational growth in your ministry. And so it provides a safe space. It provides the opportunity for you to grow and to also be just aware of what that is looking like as you're growing, to make sure you have the procedures in place to keep your families and kids and volunteers safe. So just a few things for you. You can do this as a solo reflection. You can do this as a reflection with your team, or you can book a call with me, and I would love to chat through this with you. But think through some of these discussion questions in relation to your ministry. Where are you currently thriving, and where are you just surviving? Again, take some time to just process through this. This is not to be critical, but it is actually to grow. So be considering where you're thriving and where you're surviving. Consider which of the 5 P's is your strongest and which one needs attention. How often do you evaluate your ministry with a clear framework? Do you use any kind of framework like these 5 P's? What would it look like to lead a flourishing team and not just a functioning one? So consider those things for your ministry, for where you're at right now. This is what I teach all day long and would love to get to be part of with you. And so if you are interested in walking through these 5 P's for your ministry, I would love the opportunity to do that. Just send me an email at lauren@ozarkministryconsulting.com, or pop onto the website to see some options as far as what that could look like for a consulting partnership. I would love to do this with you. I have options that vary for different needs for your church. But if you just have some questions about it and you want to know what that looks like, send me an email and let me know you want to book a call. I would be more than happy to process through these. I do have a free 30-minute consulting call at no charge to you. So hop on. I would love to chat. And I wish you all the best as you're processing through and praying through. What does it take to have a thriving and flourishing kids ministry? Questions or comments, feel free to drop those in the comments below, and I would be more than happy to connect and just to walk with you through creating a thriving and flourishing kids ministry. I hope you have a great week, and I will look forward to talking to you next time. Thanks for joining me today on the KidsMin Collective podcast, where we're all about nurturing leaders and impacting generations. Before you go, I want to invite you to take the next step in growing your ministry with confidence. I've created a free KidsMin Leader Assessment designed just for leaders like you. It walks you through the 5 key areas: purpose, people, programming, physical space, and procedures, helping you celebrate what's going well and uncover where there's room to grow. Whether you're a brand new leader or you've been leading for years, this tool will give you a clear picture of where your ministry stands and where it could go with a little strategy and support. Head over to ozarkministryconsulting.com to get started. You'll find the assessment right on the homepage, quick, simple, and packed with insight. And if this episode encouraged you, share it with a fellow leader or leave a review. We're better when we grow together. Until next time, keep leading well, keep loving big, and remember, your ministry matters.